we're onto the wall build here. I haven't taken very much video. Last weekend I was kind of dodging the rain to get some of this done. So I'll just bring you up to speed on what I've done. These are the wall templates. That's the driver's side leaning up against the wall, and I'm working on the passenger side right now. To get the curve on the top radius of the roof, I used a technique I used before when I was making a tarp for hammock camping to get the cat cups on the tarp. And it's pretty simple. All you do is find the center of your wall or whatever you're working on, and I put a little finish nail right in the center, right at the very top. I bought a 10-foot piece of quarter round. You can see it laying on top of the kayak out there. And all you do is you lay the quarter round on top of the finish nail there, and I've got a 6-inch drop at the end of each wall. So in other words, the wall comes down and it's a 6-inch drop on either side. So all I did was make a mark at 6 inches on the end of the wall and put a little finish nail there. And then I bent the quarter round all the way down to that finish nail. And then I put another finish nail on the other side to hold it in place. And then I bent the other side the same way. And then that gives you a perfect radius. And then you just draw your line. And then what I did was I took the two walls and I sandwiched them together, making sure that I had outsides, both outsides of the wall, so that you get a perfect mirror match on each one. So I sandwiched them together with the template, drew it out, took the template off, put the two pieces of plywood together. I've got my mark on one of them and the other one is sandwiched on the other side. Clamped them all together, and then I took my jigsaw and then cut it out. And so when I'm done, I've got a perfect mirror image of each wall. And then when I was done, you can see what I did. Before I even took them apart, I started labeling outside driver's front, outside driver's rear, vice versa on the other side, outside or passenger front, outside, and then I did the same thing on the inside. So what that does is labeling that just eliminates confusion as I'm building this. And you can see on this interior wall here, I know that this is the passenger interior front, and then you can see where I've drawn the door opening. I drew the whole thing out before I started laying these studs in so that I knew where every stud goes. And it's kind of being assembled similar to a wall in your house. I've got 16-inch centers on studs, and the long studs they call king studs, which that would be the first one over there, the first one. This is the window opening, and then you can see where I'm putting cripple studs in there to support the weight of the window. And then a header will be 2x3 on top of the door, on top of the window, just like you would in a wall in your house. I might be overbuilding this a little bit, but the interior and exterior walls will be sandwiched together. There'll be insulation in between this. And then the biggest pain in the butt was making the studs. And what I needed to do is I had to have 2x4s because I notched out where the spars for the roof are going to go. You can see these are on 12-inch centers, except for right here where I marked. That's a 14-inch center because that's where my exhaust fan is going to be, just above where the two windows will be, so that it draws air in and then it, exhausts the air out. But this was kind of a pain in the butt. I had to do it in 3 sections because I laid the 2x4 out with the slope and clamped it, and then on the outside I had to draw the radius. And then I started with a jigsaw, that didn't work out, so I moved on to just doing straight little cuts with my circular saw, and then I had to just kind of sand them out and shape it. But kind of a pain in the butt, but that's kind of how I had to do it, because I've got a lot of saws, but I don't have a bandsaw. So you got to improvise with what you got. So that's what I had to do. So I'm gluing the studs down, and I bought this little pocket hole jig from Home Depot, this little Craig pocket hole jig. This thing is really nice because I'm drilling these little pocket holes, you can see, and then it's screwing, not only glued but screwed into each stud is screwed into each other. So I don't have any exposed screws, they're all going in at an angle, so then the top of my inside wall will be glued to this. So anyway, that's where we're at right now, and I'll continue on with this, and then when I'm done I'll have to cut out the window and the door openings, and I'm going to have to get a better saw blade for my circular saw, one with a finer cut, because that door opening is going to have to be pretty much perfect when I cut it out. So when I get to that, I'll kind of bring you in, and when I get to the other wall, I'll try to remember to turn the camera on, and I'll bring you in when I'm, you know, trying to form this upper stud here, because that's kind of the tricky part of it. But you know, right now that's where I'm at, so we'll talk to you in a bit. My vacation's not starting too well, so I guess we got a storm moving through Florida here, tropical storm, so a lot of rain. I finally got some sunshine, so I'm trying to work on this when I can, but you can see I put these up against the other wall, 2x4s, and then traced it out up here so that I could get a mirror image of both sides of these three pieces up here. So now I just gotta, you can see there, I got them together, I just gotta glue them down, and that'll start the driver's side wall. Well, as you can see, I got the walls mounted. I apologize for not doing a whole lot of video on these walls, but for the last 3 weeks I've been dodging rain, and it's really not that complicated. I just took the wall panels and I drew out where every stud goes so that there's no confusion, and then you're just basically gluing in between the lines where you draw where your studs are. Just make sure you measure twice, cut once, as they say, and apparently I neglected that in a couple places, so, but I don't think it's anything I'm going to be able to not overcome. One issue I have is, you can look at the bottom of this wall, you can definitely see about 1/8 of an inch gap there, and it's the same on the back side. There's a bow in that wall for some reason at the floor. It wouldn't tighten all the way down to the floor, and my guess is because the bottom sill plate, I had to piece together 2 2x2s, because apparently when they're cutting out wood, they don't know how to use a tape measure, and every one of them were about 95.5, 95 3/4. There were none that were 96 inches perfectly, so I had no choice but to splice it in the middle and use my Craig jig to join them together at the floor. But I don't know if you can see that on camera, but the amazing thing is I've measured it 3 or 4 times. Everything is perfect. I'm scratching my head on that because these end walls are all 42 inches high. It's exactly 5 feet across all the way down. So somebody's looking out for me, because I don't know how that happens when I can't get the floor to go flat. But I'm not complaining, it's working out. But tomorrow I'll start working on the roof spars. How's it going, everybody? I haven't done a lot of video on doing these walls. I've been on vacation all week. I've just been trying to get it all done as much as I could this week. And I apologize if I don't sound good or look good, but I've been sick the last couple of days, running fevers on and off, and you know, just head cold, I guess. I caught whatever my wife and daughter have had for the last week. Usually I don't get sick, but this time I wasn't so lucky. But I haven't done a whole lot of video, but I don't really see the need in doing video of you watching me sawing and gluing and screwing and all that. It's all pretty self-explanatory as far as that goes. But I do want to explain to you what I'm doing with these walls.
and how the camper's going together. I've had to skip ahead a little bit in some areas because things have to be done in sequence. And so I've got the sidewalls up, and as you can see, I've got the rungs in the roof up, only because I needed to do that to run some wiring and stabilize the sidewalls. So I'm probably going to do this wall build in 2 parts actually. But for now, let me go ahead and show you where I'm at and what I've done to get to the point that I'm at right now. So hang on. All right, let's start at the point of where I framed the walls and then mounted them to the trailer. As you can see, the walls were all framed in. At that point is when I cut out for the windows and doors, and you just simply screw a hole in the 4 corners, go to the outside, draw a line with your straight edge from each mark in the 4 corners, and then use a jigsaw. Now for the door, I wanted it as perfect as possible because I'm using that panel that I cut out on the door. I may not be able to do that now. I went and bought a saw blade. It's a fine cut tooth saw blade, and it worked to begin with, but it just seemed the best way to do it was a jigsaw. I have a little bit of play because, you know, obviously you need a 1/8 inch gap all the way around the door. Plus I'm wrapping the door in canvas, which is at least going to give me another 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch. And so that roughly 1/4 of an inch all the way around is what I have to play with to make that door. The inside will be stained just like the walls, but the canvas will wrap just to the inside edge of the door. So cut out the window on this side. This side on the driver's side is a 36 by 24 window. The one on the passenger side, or yeah, the passenger side is a 24 by 24. And then we have the door over here. At that point, once that was cut out, I lifted the walls up one at a time, put them on the floor, lined it up flush with the back, the side on the outside floor on each side. And then because I had the cutouts, I used a couple of 24-inch clamps I had, and I could clamp at the window opening and the door opening to keep it in place until I put a few screws down. I put a brace up, a temporary brace from the middle to the side of the wall, used my level to plumb it, make sure it was square and straight. Then I screwed once I had that on there, I had the wall stabilized, so I was able to grab the outside of the wall, move it back, put my glue down, put it back in place, you know, square it up, clamp it again, and then I ran screws about every 6 inches or so down the base of the floor, and you can see them there. At that point, I realized one error. The reason I didn't skin both sides of this wall before I put it up was because I was going to put bolts up through the floor, frame of the trailer, and the wall. However, I didn't account for the 3-inch frame on the trailer, and there was not a hole on the bottom side to run that drill bit straight up. So I had to change plans a little bit, and instead I got 2.5-inch lag screws because now I had a hole in the floor on all 4 of those spots on each wall. So I ran lag screws up, and with the lag screws and the screws from the top down into the floor and plus the glue, this thing is all tied together. It's not going anywhere. But I was going to do the bolts just to make sure that it was all tied together, that it wasn't going to come loose. But I guarantee you, I've shook this trailer. I mean, this thing is solid. It's very well built. The only place I was able to get a bolt was in the front wall here. That's a bolt going through to the floor. I could probably manage to do 2 more on each end. I think I got a way I can get the bolts up. So I will bolt the front and rear walls. Probably the floors will just be lag, 2.5 inch lag screws, and then screws from the top down plus glue, and I think that's more than enough. But once I had that, then I started to insulate the inside of the walls, because I had ordered my wiring from Amazon and it hadn't come in yet. So went ahead and started using the leftover styrofoam insulation I had and started insulating the walls. Lo and behold, Friday, while I was doing this, the Amazon guy showed up with my wire. So I changed gears, and as you can see, started routing my wires. And I've got the wires running front to rear down the driver's side. Now I measured from the outside to the wire, exactly 12 inches on each rung. That gives me a visual when I'm putting that roof skin inside and out on where not to drive nails to. Because the last thing I want to do is drive a nail through my wiring. So I know where every wire is. As I go, I'll mark those on the skins to make sure that I know where I'm putting nails and where not to put nails. But on this side, there'll be a porch light to the outside. There'll be 2 switches. One will run the porch light, one will run the dome light, which the wire is hanging down for right there. And I also, you can see I labeled at each end, so I know when I'm wiring this thing up that I've got the right wire. I've also done a little replanning based on some advice from a friend. This is my 14-inch opening for my vent. I've decided for now I'm not going to do a roof vent, but instead I'm going to order a USB fan, and it plugs into a USB outlet, which works out great because in the back I was already going to put a dual 12-volt USB plug back there. So all I have to do is just do a 3 or 4 inch square hole in the back wall, and I'll vent it out through a dryer vent. And it says on the website 52 CFM, so which means it'll change the air over inside here every 4 minutes, which that should be plenty enough air movement with the windows cracked to ventilate the camper. If I find in the future that it's not enough, or I do want a roof vent in the future, the hole is already cut. I've already run a wire thinking ahead. All I would have to do is cut the hole out, mount the fan, and I've already got a wire for it. So I think that's going to work out just fine. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, pan around here. I've gone ahead and framed in for my air conditioner. Let me back up here a little bit for you. The hole is 18 inches by 14 inches. Now the air conditioner I'm getting is 16 inches wide by 12 inches high. I left myself 2 inches all the way around because my thinking is, if I ever need to change this air conditioner and I can't get the same air conditioner, I want to be able to get whatever air conditioner I can get, and I can still fit it in a hole. And besides, inside and out will be covered by trim, so it's not going to matter. I'll just fill in with wood all the way around to the size of my air conditioner I'm getting, and I won't glue it. I'll just put a couple screws in there just to give me the opening and mount my air conditioner. I've researched several 5-6 air conditioners, and the sizes, they all are pretty close to the same size. I don't think any of them are over like 17.5 inches wide by say 15, or actually, I'm sorry, 13. That most of them are 17-inch wide by 13 and under. So my 18 by 14 inch hole should be plenty for any air conditioner I decide to put in there in the future. So you can see up here the wires running down. I've use cable clamps, wire ties. It's running down, and right below the air conditioner is where I will make my compartment for the inside of the camper, where my 12-volt fuse block will be. The battery will be on the outside. I'm still debating, but I think the best thing to do is drill a hole through the floor in that compartment with at least 1-inch PVC, or maybe even 1.25 inches, to run flexible PVC out and into the tongue box, where the battery and the AC will be coming in, the 120. Inside I'll have one 120 plug, and all the 12-volt fuses and block will be inside. So all I need to do is run my positive and negative battery cables and one Romex wire up through the floor and into here. So I think I'll check, but either 1 or 1.25 inches should be plenty enough to run that. And I may even go 1.5 inches, I'm not sure yet, to leave room in case I ever want to run anything else in here. That'll be a perfect access hole to do it from. So that's all framed in the front. And one more thing, let me just explain to you how I'm doing this. The back wall, as you notice, is open, and I won't frame that in right now. If I were to frame this all in and then go to skin the walls, there is no way I would be able to get 5 by 4 foot panels through that door or either of these windows over here. So you've got to do this in sequence. And what I'm going to do is skin the 2 side walls, both sides, and then I'll probably do the roof in 2 panels. I'll bring those panels, all the panels that I bring in here to skin, I'll bring them to the back, skin the roof. And then the last thing I will do is cut the panel, make sure it fits for the back wall, bring it inside the camper, and then frame the back wall and put that inside skin. And then all that's left is to skin the outside of the roof and the outside walls of the front and rear. And that'll be after I insulate the roof and the front and back walls. But that's kind of the sequence I've got to do it in, and all that will probably be in part 2 of the wall build. So with that, I think I've pretty much covered it. If you have any questions about anything that I'm doing, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, or if you have any advice, it would be much appreciated. You know, I am not a carpenter, I'm not an electrician. I've built a shed from the ground up, and I did that with plans that I drew out at the kitchen table. I've pretty much done the same thing with this, and nothing is perfect. It doesn't go exactly from paper to building it with everything measuring perfectly. There's adjustments you have to make along the way. But if you have a plan to begin with, it usually goes together by plan and with just minor adjustments here and there. So I hope this is informative to you, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.